I'm here with Dpei in a very interesting time. I think you have not publicly talked about your move anyway yet. It's directly the evening, so to speak, before the matches start. Even though I guess it's 2 days to go. You've been announced as the head coach of the Vancouver Titans. You're going to play against your old team as in a sick playoff fate. What have you been doing so far, or since leaving the Gladiators and now joining the Vancouver Titans? What was the gap there filled with?
Yeah. That was actually a odd time. I think I was kind of just like recalibrating myself as a person. Uh, During that time, just getting the coaching gigs were kind of hard because everyone had established staffs at that point. Similarly, like Quinn Snyder for the NBA is having like a similar thing where you just miss the timing of teams you would want to join at the end, or teams that would be even willing to accept you. So it was an odd time for me just because Overwatch has been my life for the past, what is it, like 6 years now, like in its entirety. Kind of finding myself in that was interesting. Finding things that I liked, what I didn't like. I think going through that growth process was really interesting. But I'm glad I ended up back in Owl. After the first couple weeks, I was like really hungry to get back. Was asking some teams, and luckily got some like fortunate opportunities for me, I guess. So that's great.
Were you entertaining different offers, and why did you end up on the Titans?
Yeah, I worked with Atlanta week one, just as a possible assistant coach, and I think like Atlanta's like a really really good team, and that was something that I was seriously considering. But at the end of the day, I think Vancouver offered like something better, and Atlanta wasn't actually able to end up offering something in the end. But for Vancouver, I think they I'm really sold on building something there. That's one of the things that I learned over this off season about myself, is that I really want to build something. I really want to lead something. I think I'm that type of person. So getting an opportunity to head coach at Vancouver, where I'd have more control and just more autonomy, I think was really important. Not that working on Atlanta would have been bad by any means. I really respect Brad. I think their players are great, funny guys over there too. So but it's just, I think ultimately this one was the better fit, even if Atlanta was able to offer like a comparable offer, I think.
Sure. Now, this is a very different challenge from the stuff you've previously done. Seemingly every season, maybe, I would even say in season one, you guys were like at least in punching range of the title, always trying to go for it, always making big moves, with competing for the biggest players. Now you're coming into a situation where you don't have much say in the middle of the season. And it's also a team that not only has a history of not doing well, last season they were last place, but now again, you had a pretty slow season start. The entire situation seems stacked against you, considering that how the qualification for the mid-season works, how bonus points work. And then honestly, also your strength of schedule is probably one of the hardest for any team this season. So, like, how are you perceiving this new challenge? Are you up for the task?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a hard one. I think the strength of schedule that you mentioned, we arguably had the easiest strength of schedule in the first stage, and that's where you could actually snowball. But going 0-6, and that means the rest of your strength of schedule is harder, right? You played the easiest teams early on, so that means your strength of schedule is even harder later. And with our ultimate goal being plans, that's a tough ask. But I think for me, it does feel like season one Gladiators in a weird way. I know kind of people remember like Fissure came in, Void came in, and those were huge additions, and they absolutely were. But before that, I kind of felt like we were this ragtag group of kids who were like playing upset, and I kind of have that same feeling. Even season one, we were 14-16 going into stage 4, and then we pull out a 9-1 stage of pretty much out of our butt. So that was like we built up to that moment. And for Vancouver, you talk about the strength of schedule. Stage 3, the summer showdown, I believe is what it's called. I forget all the acronyms. The third tournament, that's really where we gotta like pick up some points, go to the tournament in Toronto, and be able to pick up more points for that, is kind of how I see it. We need to build up to that point. That tournament's going to be really important for us. if we're going to compete for a play-in. So I'm up for the challenge. It's definitely a hard challenge. You handicap yourself 06 on the easiest strength of schedule. That's not easy, being, looking for the play-in berth that so many other teams are looking for and look competitive at. London, Paris, Nixel, Boston, us, but that's the situation it is. I'm dealt the cards I'm dealt. We just kind of go from there.
Right. Now, Gladiators, Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, Shock, and Justice. What is, in the short term, what's a successful next stage? What does it look like? What's the score, or what is the manner in which you play those matches?
I think, okay, there's like quantitatively and qualitatively. I think qualitatively, we need to be starting to play like fundamental Overwatch. That's the first thing I noticed when even watching their matches. They don't really understand how to play Overwatch in the current day, like optimal Overwatch. And that's the thing that I really need to get into their heads. We're like, what, 1 week in, basically 8 days of practice in, and it's looking better. It's looking better for sure. And that's kind of qualitatively what we want is, can we be playing sound Overwatch? Doesn't matter the comp, doesn't matter the situation, doesn't matter like if people are on strengths or not strengths, like what are we doing here? From a quantitative standpoint, I think any amount of wins here is great because these are all teams. An upset is defined by, like your likelihood to win. And I think nobody would place us very high to win any of these matches. You would predict a 0-6 for this stage. So anything above that is going to be, I don't know, success, but that is like, by scientific terms, by that model, I would say that is a success. So, but really I'm looking at qualitative things. I need our quality of play to be higher. We might be able to eke out some wins here and there. If we go 3-3 and our quality of play is bad, I would still consider that not a success. But I'm never complaining if we go 3-3 on this stage, just to be honest. But as a coach, I really need us to build up if our goal is play-ins, and our goal is to play Dark Horse in the playoffs as well, play-ins as well. That's going to be really important.
Right. Now, there are different reasons why you bring on a coach in the situation that your organization finds itself in. So, for instance, let's say from European sports, we know some teams get a new coach in order to, get over the hump and then avoid relegation, for instance. Now you could feasibly say like the short term is to make those play-in slots. That could be a goal. Is that what you're being brought on for, or is it a long-term commitment and it's now the Dpei show for the foreseeable future in the Vancouver Titans?
Yeah, I mean, I guess my management is more apt to answer the long-term plans. But as far as my plans, yeah, I definitely see it like Flubby and Pew ended up leaving the Vancouver Titans. So one was necessity, out of the gate, it's just necessity. And then past that, my goal here is to build something long-term. Like I said, that is something really appealing to me. That's something I think I built over at Gladiators. I built, that team from not just myself, obviously, but I've kind of seen it through the past 4 years up until this last year. And I feel like, even now I still feel part of that team in some way, some like ephemeral way, but yeah, I think that's what I'm trying to do here at Vancouver as well. That's my goal personally. But things change. I know things change, for sure. So I'm open to whatever, but right now only can really focus on the short term. Long term is there. I am thinking about long term, but more in terms of the scope of the season, not the scope of every future season. I don't have a 5-year plan or anything like that. I just have this year's plan and maybe an inkling of next year's plan as we get closer. But yeah.
Right. Now, considering you didn't or couldn't have had a say in the building of this team, the one good thing is I think you explained, like, generally speaking, you excel at coaching Western rosters that speak your language. It's hard for you, like you had to figure out your way to make this work. Now it's a situation where you have limited agency in the outcome of whatever's going on. So your first assessment, what do you think is what's the quality of the substance of the team that you currently have?
Yeah, I mean, for me, just to address something you said, like I like working with all types of players. It doesn't really matter what's on or not. I just like smart, hardworking players. Language is obviously super important, but I think that's what we have is a ragtag group of guys. Like I think the thing that I can tell is like nobody really believes in us, our players, our team. Like even within the community, it's like, yeah, it's pretty bad. So we're playing that underdog, and as long as people are motivated to work hard and do better, that's what I care about. As far as like the substance of the team, I really like that phrase, the substance. I think we have some potential here. I don't know how much, we'll see as we go along, but I see some bright spots in this team. I see a lot of rawness in this team, like I mentioned before. Like their strategic knowledge is just not up to par for what I'm used to, and so I have to build that up. With maybe former teams, a lot of the players had like 75% of the basic knowledge covered, and then we would go over the last 25%. I'm basically starting at essentially zero, is kind of how I feel. Maybe like 25, but like pretty low, and then we have to like build that up, and then have to also prepare for matches. So it's a tough task, but that's where we're at right now. We need to build together, and that's like the really important part. But we'll see what the substance of our team is. Substance is going to be defined as we grow, basically, as far as I'm concerned. The base is interesting because it's like I said, we got not much to work with. We got like very raw meat over here. We can cook it into whatever we want. So let's see what we get cooking over here. Ask me in a couple months, and we'll see.
Right. Now, okay, you got to explain this to me, because in my mind, there's Shockwave, and he's been coached by a couple of pretty well-respected coaches, specifically during the Fraley era, though, as much as that could have happened during his COVID inability to join the team. You have someone like Aspire, who has like half an Overwatch League season from last year. You have Masa. You got a bunch of players that theoretically have played this game at a pretty high level.
Mm-hmm.
How is it possible that they're at 0% strategical understanding?
I think it's because like things weren't explained in a general way, or because the context of the team is different. I think that's a big thing, is like we need to build a team-based knowledge. Like every team has to do it. Like every team that you start off, unless you guys were the last starting five, even Dallas has problems that they need to solve together. Oh, we have Chio now. This is going to be different. Like oh, we have Guerrillo. Yeah, this is going to be different. Oh, we don't have Fearless and Hanbin in at the same time. We have a bit less direction. These are problems that they've had to deal with. Every team has some sort of problem that you have to deal with. So just like, maybe for XYZ team, they had to solve these set of problems and they understood it in this context, but it's a completely different context now. So that's why I mean, like, even from like a situation understanding standpoint, like some players just worked with different comps. For example, Fusion worked with more like rush-based comps, so Shockwave's more familiar with that. Aspire is more familiar with Tracer, but maybe less familiar when he has to play hit scan. It just depends on what these people's backgrounds are at the end of the day. So for the meta right now, it's low, but like I said, we're getting there. It's not like they're hopeless. They will learn quickly because they are smart players, good players. But from a team standpoint, from their individual understanding standpoint, it might be okay. But from a team standpoint of how to play together, it's low, and we're working on it. Like I said, 1 week and we look a lot better, in my opinion, a lot better. So it's just going to be a learning process as a team. It's more of a team responsibility thing, like our team knowledge, rather than blaming any individual for low strategic knowledge.
For sure. Now, at least from their peak performances, for instance, I'm thinking of players like Shockwave and Aspire. Their mechanical ability is pretty high, and they've also been known for playing pretty aggressive Overwatch, at least in past seasons when they were optimally utilized or had the ability to compete. Is that type of play style something like fans could potentially see? Or do you think you need to redefine your entire color and play much more calculatedly, maybe more like a London style with the rush comps that go a little bit slower in terms of like what's the color of this team?
The color of this team, hopefully we are smart and aggressive. For Glads, even last year, you could argue we were smart and aggressive, but maybe too aggressive, maybe not smart enough. I think that was always been like Gladiators color, and that's just like the style of coaching that I like to incorporate is smart but aggressive, and it probably leans on the side of aggression more than smart. But that's what I want, is calculated aggression. Every misstep the enemy makes, I want to make them feel punished for it. I want to take every opportunity we can, and sometimes that results in us feeding. But that's kind of how I see Overwatch even nowadays. Like that's just what good Overwatch looks like. If you look at the there's no real slow teams left in the league, are there? Like nobody has really succeeded with the style. I would argue KDG was one of the slower coaches in the leagues that promoted that style, and it clearly has not developed in a slower way. In my opinion, everything's much faster paced. So that is kind of the style of Overwatch that I've always believed in, and that I think I'm being proven right over this past season going into Overwatch 2. Fundamentally, that's what you want. So yeah, I think hopefully you see smart aggressive plays, but maybe you see more aggressive plays, not that smart, or maybe you see too smart play, but like maybe not enough aggression. We'll see, but we'll see as we develop, I think, and it obviously depends on comps. Is a big part, some comps you do have to play slower into some matchups, for sure.
Right. Now, last question. I think you mentioned you want to go deep in the third stage. You want to make it to the tournament, win a couple of bonus points in Toronto, and then also potentially qualify or try to get into the play-ins. Is this, if you manage that, that's your understanding of a successful season for you?
I think that's incredibly successful. I think that's a high goal. Given our starting point, I think if we didn't start 0-6 with an easy strength of schedule, I would say like very, very doable. Like this wouldn't be a high goal. I would put this as like rather expectation. Whereas now this is, I mean, I set high expectations. That's just how it is. But I do think that this goal is very high, and I don't think we're in the best strength of schedule to kind of do that. Or I haven't had enough time with the team for a preseason. It's a 1 week preseason as far as I'm concerned, and then boom, we're right into matches. It's crazy fast. I don't have that time to work with the team, so I would qualify that as a success, and that's what I'm gunning for. So yeah, that's truly a high success, I think, for this team. That doesn't mean that we can't go better or anything like that, but I do think that would be reaching more than expectations in my opinion. Yeah,
for sure. Then we thank you for the interview and best of luck in your preparation.
Thank you.